Hello, welcome to this level 4 video within my energetic system series. My name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks, and this is going to sort of be the outline of what level 4 is going to go over to give us these little markers of understanding points to lead the way. If you are new, you can certainly listen to this, but I really would suggest probably watching videos of the beginning levels instead of trying to jump in here at level 4, just because this external based systems is most beneficially worked with after you've done some like introspection and work on the inner systems and understand systems in general. I believe, and I really think a lot of the confusion and distortions, the problems that we have in the world right now, all spawn from people jumping into and being fooled by the external world and the external systems out there on purpose, and also forgetting all about the internal. And it's only by forgetting the internal that we ever can be fooled by the external. And so if you are new, please check out at least level 3 beforehand about your internal systems and do some introspective work, or at least get these little bits of keywords and visualizations that I offer about the makeup of you as a multidimensional, multi-layered being, mind, body, and spirit complex, right? An energetic system that is doing work and collecting a charge, right? An overall presentation. All of those sort of understandings are really foundational and pivotal to having good workings in the external services. So yeah, I would really please impress upon people who are new or jumping in to spend your time watching those. There's some links in the description or maybe the comments, depending on whether you're on BitChute or YouTube, that I'll put in. That would be better foundational videos to watch. But for those of us who've sort of been following along here, welcome to level 4 for real. I know I put out 2 videos already, sort of discussion videos about prerequisite information, some sort of terminologies, to reaffirm and help us sort of cement in our internal organic alignments to make sure that, our negative inner system is functioning to the best of its ability, to the highest of its good, serving the self as best as it can for the self's highest good, in divine, beautiful service to others of reflection, right? Seeing the self as an extension of God, seeing the self as an extension of all others out there. And so when we do that work and we have that foundation with the inner core, it really fuels and sustains this external torrido that we're going to talk about with the positive flow. Actionary, service-driven, offering service freely out into the world. The positive polarity of the external systems. Now, of course, like I've said in this entire series, is slightly biased because I am positively seeking service to others entity. I define my points and my truths in that way, and I try to align all of my work and practices and all of my systems with the one truth and with my one truth, and to stand in it and honor it always. And that one truth and my one truth honors all others, one truth as well. And this sort of sovereign acceptance, again, it's what fuels the external systems here, and it's really what will fuel, all of your great service. We'll get more into this, and we'll talk more in depthly into this further in level 4. And I'm going to do a good comparison between the orientations as well. Just to leave it there for now, and just to let people know that for the most part, and for the introductional kind of getting going, I am going to be mostly referencing sort of the organic, natural alignment, positive polarity. Yeah. So, for level 4, external systems, we know already that the whole of the system that we're talking about is you, or me, or human, any being. But for you, for us now, we're talking about us. And I will be using myself as an example, obviously. The whole of our system is made up of these 3 layers, or bodies, or worlds, realities, however you want to look at, and whatever kind of words you want to tie to this. And we, this is obviously the model we've been talking about, the triad of creation. It's all the same templates that we can use to dissect a whole, to see its workings and processes. And so, just as a reminder, our external, of course, is that external portion of the toroidal, the donut shape, the action-based interactions with the external and direct world, the sort of masculine energies, and that holds in balance with the internal sort of feminine energies, this negatively aligned, drawing in the inside processes. It balances with those, and that's the Taurus shape. Now the motion and the lemniscatic handing off all that's happening, and that contributes to the collection of the energy, whether the Taurus is moving this way in positive alignment, pushing up service out, drawing in and pushing out, or whether it's drawing in this way, negatively aligned, and pushing out, and drawing in this way, negatively aligned. So when we look at an image of a Taurus, we generally just see the donut shape, and we can see, or we know, the empty space in the middle, the vortex, is the inner core. We tend to miss out or forget that it's moving, and that the direction that it's moving matters. A lot of times it gets categorized as this pulsing that is a handoff of the 2, and so it doesn't have directionality. And that's not actually true. It is a pulsating handing off, and it is a constant changing that is happening, but there's an overall polarity collection as well that happens. And the overall polarity collection is what creates directionality and flow, whether the Taurus is flowing in a positive alignment or drawing in a negative alignment. And I went through a lot of that in level 1 to sort of really open up space around that sort of mainstream academia version portrait of the Taurus and stuff. So if you want more on that, and you missed those, you can check it out in level 1. But I bring all that back to us, and I bring it up again to just reaffirm that whatever external systems you find yourself involved in, when you start to go and look and assess our external systems and see what you're involved in and what you're getting out of it and how you're interacting with them, just know and understand that all of those are symptomatic of what's already happening inside, and what truths you stand in, and what you have chosen to believe or discard. And if you have a problem with what you're encountering in these outside services, it's not a trigger to go out and place blame and make corrections in the direct or external world. You can't make any changes in the outside of you. You don't have the power to do that. You have the power of dominion over yourself only, in your world, your universe. But just know that when you see things in the external that you don't like, and services that you don't want to be involved in, or you've been, whatever the case might be, we'll go over them later, they all have a root and a tie back into the inner systems, into distortions within your inner core workings. And don't, so instead of wasting time looking out at these delusions and mirages of the external problems, just see them as the symptoms that they are and follow them back inwards and do alchemy work. Go back to those level 2 and 3 workings for yourself, honestly, and take them inwards. And you'll find the roots. You'll be shown the answers if you seek them. And you'll correct the ripple effect in the outside direct and external worlds. You will see the changes, but you have to do the inner shifting first. You know, and when we look at the big picture of us, it makes sense, because when we remember we are a whole, the inner systems are the representation of the processes. The outer external is the representation of service, of polarity. And when we remember that each of those holds an inner divine reflection of the other, right? Then we can see how the inner system has a beautiful action within it, and how the external system can have a divine drawing in within it. And like I said, we'll get into the echoes and reflections and all of that afterwards. But I just introduced this as sort of a reminder to people, because as we look at external systems, a lot of times, like, this is where the repercussions happen. This is where a lot of us have a lot of our focus. And a big portion of it is the manipulation part of the matrix overlay that, you know, we're all a part of, that has this sort of concrete setting on the external world, a forced perspective. But it's really not, and you can choose differently. Everything will appear malaligned and negative when you take that view, because it's built on a lie. And so, like, when you take that view, don't expect to ever find a positive overall balance. It's not possible, because the view in itself is negatively aligned. It has to have a negative overall balance at the end of the day, the end of the transactions. Conversely, or, you know, in the opposing side, if you build from a place of truth and honesty, you will always be seeking and working to find more truth and honesty. So yeah, that's kind of the purpose and intentions of level 4 that we're really going to start to read through and understand. Now, I'd like to just go through the structure and function quickly of external systems. And just know that I want to dive into each one of these bodies like I did for the internal systems. This is sort of just a tip of the iceberg glimpse of the external systems, so that we can see the scope of what we're going to dive into. When we talk about external systems, it kind of is at the forefront and seems like the only thing, or everything, is to do with material 3D others, and also groups and systems, industries that we can be a part of as service. But that is just a slice of the pie, let's remember. And there's a huge rest of layerings and interactions and languages and worlds that are available and that actually do and are part of the umbrella of external services. So what does that look like? Let's remember, right, that as we look, even though we're diving into a portion of it, now, as a whole, it has the representation of everything, right? So within the external service, in your external service, you have your 3 representations of mind, body, and spirit, right? Or internal, external, and flow. That I use parallel running to each other, right? So the external service system has the external boss, the body boss, right? And who deals with all the body movements and how a body works and functions. And then you have the external mind boss, and that has to do with the information, the energy pass, the electricity, the thoughts that come through and are handed off, with everything that has to do with your external interactions. And then we have the external spirits boss, or the flow. And that has to do with both of those, observing them and seeing how they interact within each other, and seeing the intentions and the charge that's happening with all of the energy exchanges, how they do the work. And as a quick example here, just to give people an idea of what we're talking about and what we'll dive into, the body, let's talk about the external service, external torrido, in a way that doesn't have to do with service first. Your external torrido and your external systems have 3 languages that are happening at all times, basically. And for example, quickly, if you walk across the room, right, you're gonna get a drink. You're thirsty. You're gonna get some water across the room. The external boss of the body, as you're walking across the room, it is managing. And what does that really mean, right? It is taking in, processing, and transmitting part of these energy transactions, right? Information and responses of sensory flavoring that have to do with how your skin, how your foot is touching the floor, how the bones in your foot move, the muscles in there, each step, how you're standing up, your blood flowing, you're blinking, your spit, all of these things are going on while you're walking across the room, right? Your body's boss of the external torrido takes that information in. It's processing that. That's what it's doing while you're moving. The mind's external boss is taking in, processing, and handling the thoughts, energy, and electricity, the impulses that come with that, how you do that, how your all your organs and your systems, organ systems work together, what kind of information, are they getting and handing off to the body? Because the body's boss is responsible for the mechanics and the movements of it, but there's other things, that information that it comes through as you're stepping, right? Is the floor cold? Is the air around you cold? Do you have socks on? These sort of sensory information, but it has more to do with energy, emotions, these sort of descriptive pieces of information that also come in while you're moving, while you're doing this external system work, process of your external system. The third part, your spirit, it's there. It has a role as well as you walk across the room, right? Not only is it holding a place and observing how your body is handing information and how your mind is handing up that information, and how they transact within each other, it's also like, what type of thirst am I experiencing? Do I feel like this desperate need for water? Am I going across frantically? Am I walking, worrying about, is there water going to come out of the tap? Or do I have, water on hand that I blessed and that I have in a cistern that I know is always there and abundantly charged and ready to fuel my body, and I'm walking gracefully across the room, holding myself in abundance and a sovereign right to have a drink? This matters. It really does. It plays a role, and it has value to the data set that it makes up the whole of your external systems. Those processes have a right and have a reality to them, even in simple things like that. And we'll look further, and I'll take it into other examples, and we'll talk more about real service and exchanges with others, having conversations with others, right? Because just like the walk across the room, you can break it into those three major categories. As you have a conversation with someone, you're also, your external system is doing all three of that work, right? Your body and your body's boss is creating how you're speaking. You know, it's making the words, it's looking at the other. If you're using your hands to talk to them, if you're using your eyes to watch them, you know, your mind has a million things going on when you're talking to another, right? Your spirit is also doing that same thing. Not only is it a placeholder and watching the interactions and the handoff between what the body and the mind are doing during this conversation with another person, there's also the intention of how you're speaking, why you're having the conversation. Are you listening? How are you listening? With what intentions are you hearing? That has all to do with the external system. Now, that's only one part, too, of the external systems, right? When we look at the external system, we have to remember that not only is it about how we are talking to this other, how we are putting out information, how we are interacting with our inner system and creating these experiences, right? But it's also about the reception and the taking in of the reactions and the changes in the other person, the other situation. And that is the inside system of the external system, right? That is a whole other portion of external service. And we'll talk about that as we get further in. But just like I did with the internal systems, I really, I'm going to sort of break it into two different sections here with the external systems as well. And we'll talk about functionality and processes within the layers, like we're talking about right now, first, and hash out sort of the available spectrum of process work that is available. And then we'll talk about how all of those processes create polarity and what polarity with your service actually really means. And then we'll get more into what I was talking about before about, you know, having a positive torus flow or having a negative toroidal flow. And then once we have a gauge on our own and a sense of the difference between the two, what they feel like and present themselves as within ourselves and within the own service and work that we're doing and have been doing. Once we get a handle on that, then we'll take the real external look and we'll look at actual external systems and talk a bit about what those really are and how we interact with those. Because that in itself is a whole world of conversations that you really should only have once you have really tied it in and have strong, clear internal workings. Excuse me. And then also felt the repercussions and the symptomatic changes and the shifts in your own external toroidal, and to really gain momentum and even understand what that clarity and momentum of positive service feels like within your own world and within your own self. Because you have to have a strong feeling of that and a balance of that before you go and do external work and actually go and be a part and present yourself into an external system that's separate from you. Because otherwise you could get lost in the systems. And especially, I'll just say here at the ending, because most systems out there are under this negative overlay, most of them are negatively aligned. If not all of them, but at least most of them are. And they might have a lot of distortions and delusions that present themselves with this false appearance of positivity. But once you have gauged and done the work and you seek truth within yourself, you have a great gauge at that, and you'll be able to straight away tell the false mask that's sort of presenting itself in front of the system behind it that's actually negatively aligned. But yeah, that's again crucial to do the work first, because a lot of it is meant to trick us out there. A lot of it is meant to be testing of this inner truth monitor, of your sense of discernment of who you are. You know, they're out there. Hallucinations, distractions, delusions, funhouse of a bunch of nonsense out there for you to test and gauge your power of choice and discernment against. But all of us and most of us are thrown into it without really having any tools or having any muscle first. And then we wonder, why we're getting such poor results. Hopefully here we're going to be doing the work and getting better results. So thank you so much for joining me here for this sort of outline to level 4. I hope that I have given people sort of markers of where we're going. I'd love to hear your feedback or your ideas. If you have any, feel free to leave comments or send me emails. My email is always in the description. You can find me on amariespeaks.com directly, or on Telegram, Spotify, YouTube, BitChute, all under Amarie Speaks, where I share all things introspection, spirituality, and happiness. So thank you so much for joining me and listening to this. I thank you for your beautiful contribution to our collective. Thank you for witnessing mine. I'll talk to you next time.